Hello everyone, my name is Joshua and this is the 156th video on my video journal series. Today's date is Tuesday the 14th of July 2026. How's everyone been? I've been pretty good, thank you. And today I wanted to talk about something which might not come to your head immediately, but hopefully when I explain it more, it will invoke some memories in your mind. And that is things that parents, adults and teachers have taught us when we're young, but when we grow older, we look back on what they said to us and we're like, hey, is this actually true or not? Is it a myth or not? And what am I talking about? I'm talking about stuff like, you have to be at the airport 3 hours early. Always follow the serving suggestions on chocolates and candy. You're only allowed to have ice cream once a week. Otherwise, you'll turn into an ice cream cone yourself. Obviously, that one's a little bit exaggerated, but I get what they mean, right? It's like, common courtesy stuff. I agree with the message, but there are some things that my parents have told me, and maybe it's like maybe their advice is a little bit outdated because obviously they were told this when they were children, back in the ancient times, essentially. By that, 70s and 80s, just a little bit of sarcasm, but yeah, and obviously things have changed, but I'll still raise with this sort of ideology, this sort of set of rules and things that we don't really think too much as a child. We just listen to what our parents have to say, but when we're an adult, we're like, hey, I don't think that's true anymore. First thing I'm going to mention, and it'll make my point clear, is that my dad always gave the rule of thumb, Josh, be at the airport 2 hours early for domestic flights, 3 hours early for international. Now, I agree with that. Always be at the airport early, especially when you're flying international, and I still follow that rule of thumb, But I wondered to myself, why is there a difference between international and domestic flights? Sometimes I've actually gone through airport security in like a very short amount of time. And I understand they're closing the check-in counter like an hour before a flight. So you can't like be 1 hour early. That's too late. You got to be at least two. But yeah, like hypothetically, the whole check-in process and security process isn't really that long. And I've been thinking about this, and always my dad just said, security, they might pull you over, you might get questioned. There's a small chance of that happening, but, you don't want to miss your flight, you don't want to miss your holiday, or way back home. And, I agree, but, I never asked him why specifically you should be 2 hours early for domestic, 3 hours early for international. Why not 3 hours early for domestic and 4 hours international? Where did he get that rule of thumb? I don't know, but I'm sure some of your parents might have told you that sort of thing if you ever been on a plane before or at an airport. The fact that I guess like my mum said when she was flying, long before she had me, back in the late 90s or whatever, they used to like manually check passports. And she says, oh Josh, when you fly, they might manually check your passport, whoever at the airport, like security, and they might ask you like simple questions. But I don't think that happens anymore. I haven't gotten like pulled aside, asked any questions or whatever. Obviously it can still happen, but I don't think it's like as common, because now I go through like these automatic gates where they scan like my passport and all that. So unless there's like an issue with that, I don't think they'll like pull me over. I don't know. Hasn't happened to me yet. But another thing, travel related, is that my parents have told me, and I've heard other people say this online and to me in real life, you got to notify your bank if you travel overseas. Because if you travel overseas, use your credit card or whatever, there might be an issue because your bank detects a problem. And this is another thing. Like, I never had this issue happen to me. I think it's still around today. Obviously it depends what bank you use, what country you're from. But I don't think this issue is prevalent as much anymore. I think, back in the days before the internet, certainly it would have been an issue because obviously we're a lot less connected in terms of technology. So if back in the 80s and 90s, if you traveled from, let's say, Australia to Japan or the US and you try to use your credit card, it may not work because your bank detects some fraud scheme or whatever. I don't know. And the fact that I guess not a I guess traveling was much more limited back then, if that makes sense. Like not everyone could travel; it's a lot more expensive. Certainly a lot less common than it is now, if you catch my drift. But yeah, I don't think I've ever had to contact the bank saying, "Hey, I'm traveling overseas. Please don't lock my card or anything." Because if hypothetically every traveler were to phone up their bank and tell them, "Oh, yeah, I'm traveling overseas. I can't oh, sorry, can you just like allow my transactions?" Then the bank would just be flooded with phone calls. And to be fair, it takes me like 40 minutes in order for me to actually get through the queue in line, whenever I'm like on the phone or whatever, the virtual queue. So I can imagine like if I'm, even just traveling to another country, imagine spending 40 minutes on the phone just to talk to someone to say, hey, I just traveling overseas, right? Like I don't think it's much as I don't think it's a big issue anymore. I don't know. It's just that like obviously I spent money overseas, and even the big banks advertise, oh yeah, spend your money overseas. They don't ever say in their ads, oh, contact one of our representatives or whatever. Whenever you're going overseas because we might lock up your card because of fraud or whatever. Usually I'll just give you a phone call or text saying, hey, do you authorize this transaction? Is this your transaction? And I just say, yes, it is. So obviously, this is just for me. It's always better to pick the safe route, to contact your bank or whatever. But for me, I've been told this many, many times, but I never really encountered this issue. So yeah, I think even though it might still be sort of practiced today where some people have to phone their bank when they're going overseas so their card doesn't decline or whatever. For me, I don't think it's as big as of an issue now as it was back then. All right, so I guess that goes in the middle. Another thing is, you're only allowed to eat chocolate once a week, sort of thing. I've heard this one from the older generation, right, where they were only allowed to eat chocolate or ice cream or whatever on once a week. And same thing goes with junk food, right? Like McDonald's, KFC, once a week. Now, obviously, I promote everyone to be healthy. You shouldn't eat junk food every single day. But I think to myself, once a week, for like lollies, sugar, like humans need a certain amount of sugar, in their lifetime, right? Sugar is very, very lethal, actually, if you take it in large quantities. But a little bit of sugar isn't going to really harm anyone. In fact, sometimes we need a little bit of a sugar boost. And certainly I do, like every day I need a little bit of a sugar boost. But yeah, like if I just had like one ice cream cone per week, am I actually getting enough sugar? Would that do more harm than good? Excuse me, I was about to burp. I just had a salad earlier. It was very nice. But yeah, would it do more harm than good? So yeah, like, and also serving suggestions, right? Whenever they have like serving suggestions on the back of like lollies or candy saying, all right, 4 pieces equals one serving. It could be like 4 gummies equals one serving. I'm like, that looks suspiciously low. Why is it that one serving is only like 4 mini gummies, right? And you're told, all right, you only allow like one serving. Well, that's barely anything. Yeah, I always wondered why. This isn't so much, I guess, an adult thing. Like an adult told me that, all right, you're only allowed to have 4 gummies, at a birthday party. Like who says that? But at the back of packages where they say, all right, 4 gummies equals one serving, this amount of M&Ms or Skittles equals one serving, this amount of squares of chocolate equals one serving. It just seems off. Why is it so low? I guess everyone has their own like, health requirements, but yeah, I've always wondered why the serving suggestions are so low. And why I guess some people think that, one ice cream a week is like too much, Like, theoretically, right? There's a guy I know, I forgot his name, but he's eaten a Big Mac every single day of his life since like the 70s. You can search him up. He's like a famous, I guess, enthusiast of McDonald's, but he's in pretty good shape. And I wondered at myself, like, how could you have McDonald's, mind you, just like a Big Mac burger every single day? That's because McDonald's and fast food, it's incredibly imbalanced, right? You could eat a Big Mac meal, it won't fill you up as much as, let's say, a healthy salad or any other healthy food. But it's incredibly imbalanced, right? It's not as filling as other foods, but you pretty much hit all your daily requirements in one meal, sort of thing. And certainly, there's a lot of like other chemicals and things that they put in their burgers and all that. I don't want to sound like too much of a conspiracy theorist, but it just made me think, hey, theoretically, if all you had like every single day was a Big Mac for lunch, you wouldn't be like morbidly obese. I'm no like health person or anything. I'm no scientist. Obviously you got to follow your diet. You got to eat healthy. But certainly if you had like McDonald's twice a week, it wouldn't be too bad. Yet again, depends what you're getting. But like as long as you meet your daily requirements, you should be largely okay. Like nothing like you'll turn into a hamburger yet again. That's exaggeration, but they make it seem like you gotta like have long-term health problems. But I guess it just depends what you eat, because obviously stuff like McDonald's, KFC, the oil that they use, I guess it's just maybe the cooking oil, all the additives and whatnot. But like if you break it down, I've heard this sentiment online. If you break it down, a burger made at home and a McDonald's is largely the same thing. Like, what differentiates a burger being made at home than McDonald's? Most probably the patty. All right, it's most probably the patty, the cooking oil. Like whenever my mum cooks, she uses butter. So it could be that. But yeah, like I've always questioned that. Why candy or junk food only once a week? I've certainly had junk food twice or even 3 times a week, and yet I don't have any sort of health problems, but I always make sure I eat it in moderation. It could be as something small as a couple of nuggets at McDonald's or even a full course meal. So yeah, like that. These are things I personally heard. Obviously, what you've been taught differs a lot from what I've been taught. But hopefully some people resonate with this, and yet again, this is not like a serious video. It's not like a conspiracy theory. It's just like, like he's just like recounting some old memories, of like my parents telling me all these things, and the fact that whenever I used to go to McDonald's, my mum would always get like the smallest possible serving size. Like, oh, can I have a small? She always specifies small cheeseburger meal, but I'm like, I want a medium. I want a large. And obviously, I thank my mom for being so health conscious of me. But like at the same time, I think there's a point where you're too health conscious. If you want to be healthy, don't go to McDonald's frequently. It's all right to go to McDonald's. Once, maybe even twice a week. Depends what you're getting. But it's like McDonald's is more like a guilty pleasure sort of thing. If you're going to go to McDonald's, why not just get a medium, right? If you're getting a small, just, the supermarket's down the corner, mum. Yes, I'm right. I am saying we have food at home, because at least my mum makes bigger portion sizes at home than what she orders for me at McDonald's, all right? I am not angry. But anyway, that was my little rant, all right? I've been waiting years for this, all right? Years. But anyway. I guess like the last sort of thing I wanted to talk about, in terms of things where you question if they're actually true or not. Is it a myth? Is that I guess what could be another one? I've been so focused on traveling and junk food and all that. Man. I'm just going to give it a quick little thought right here. I'm just going to think, yet again, these videos aren't scripted. It takes a while for the cogs in my brain to start working. What is another one? Yes. I guess hygiene. Now, obviously, hygiene is very important, right? But, there's some days where I don't go outside. All right, I don't go outside. Or I've eat very little like sugary stuff and all that. But yet again, my parents always told me, brush your teeth twice a day, to have a shower daily. And obviously, I agree with the sentiment of having proper hygiene. I always wondered, why do we brush our teeth twice a day? Now I know it's because, yet again, hygiene, right? It's good to take care of your teeth, because once you lose them, that's it. They're pretty much gone when you're an adult. But yet again, I wondered myself, hypothetically, right? If you're required to brush your teeth twice a day in 3 minute intervals, why not just brush your teeth one time a day in just a long 6 minute session? Would it have the same effect? And I've wondered this myself. Sometimes I only brush my teeth once a day, which obviously isn't as good as brushing your teeth twice a day. But I'm like, well, would it have the same effect? What if I were to just brush my teeth for 6 minutes instead of doing it in 2 3 minute intervals? Yet again, I'm not qualified, I guess, to talk about this too much. I don't know. It's probably the safe bet to brush your teeth twice a day in 3 minute intervals. Some people say to only put the size of only a small amount of toothpaste, right? The size of a pea on your toothbrush. But I'm like, is that actually true? The size of a pea, like a very, very small amount. Usually I just put like a fair bit, and just start scrubbing. Another, yeah, obviously I do what works for me. I like to put, some toothpaste. But I heard if you brush your teeth like too much, it starts to like ruin the porcelain of your teeth. So yet again, I guess it just depends what toothpaste you're using, what brush. So yeah, I've always wondered that myself. And another thing is, obviously it's good to shower every day. But there's some days where obviously I forget to shower because I'm too lazy to. Or the fact that I just pretty much stay at home but don't sweat. And obviously, yeah, shower every day. But do we have to shower every single day? Obviously, I'm a big fan of hygiene. I recommend we should wash ourselves every day. But I'm like, well, what if I were to just stay at home, stay in bed, not really sweat? There's some days where I've skipped a shower. I know I'm pretty unhygienic, but I'm like, well, would it really, I guess, matter? I guess if you don't shower for 3 days, I can understand, but one day, and why one day? Why only once a day? Why not shower twice a day? If we brush our teeth in 2 minute, two intervals per day, then why do we only shower once a day? And when to have a shower? Here's another thing. When do you have a shower in the day? Now, I've had it a mix, right, between mornings and evenings. My parents always told me, oh yeah, just shower in the evenings before you go to bed. But I'm like, well, wouldn't I just wake up sweaty either way? And then I got to go outside sweaty? Wouldn't it make better sense to shower in the morning? Yet again, I have no clear consensus about this. I guess it just depends what you're doing, Some people like to shower midday before they go out. Some people like to shower at the end of the day when they've done a hard day's worth of work. So I guess it just depends. But when should you shower? And there's some days where I've had two showers, one in the morning, one in the evening. So why is it, I guess, commonplace, or at least my parents think so, that you only shower once a day? Yet again, these are, it just depends on your situation, I guess. That's the answer. It just depends what you're doing, what your situation is. But yeah, that's weird, right? Brush your teeth twice a day, have a shower once a day. But some days I brush my teeth once and I have a shower twice. Yet again, this seems a little bit of a, idiotic discussion. But yeah, these are the sort of things where I just, slowly question. And another thing is, here's another thing my mum said, which I don't think is true, is that once you shave all your facial hair, your beard, beard, mustache, the hair grows back quicker. Now, I don't think there's any scientific, evidence for this, because obviously when I was in high school, I had to shave, and my mum always said, oh, the hair grows back quicker once you shave. I'm like, does it? What makes me, I guess, what happens when I like shave that makes the hair grow back faster? I don't think it's true. I think it just might be dependent on age, but I've found no scientific evidence for that. So yeah, that's another, I guess, theory, sort of not theory, but saying debunked. If you shave, your hair will grow back quicker. I don't think that's true. And yet again, I think this just marks the end of the video. Yet again, these are all like low level sort of things to talk about. On the surface level, they seem a little bit idiotic. Like, oh, obviously you gotta have a shower daily, brush your teeth, arrive at the airport early, don't eat too much junk food, sweets, lollies. But at the same time, when you really think about it, you're like, hey, like, oh, here's another thing. Pajamas, all right? Just before I end, I want to talk about one other thing, pajamas. Now, obviously my mom, she says, oh, get changed in your pajamas and all that. You don't want to sleep in your dirty clothes. Sometimes I actually used to sleep in my work uniform, which isn't a good thing because, it has germs and all that. But, I never really found the need for pajamas. Sometimes I just sleep in, a long shirt, some clean jeans or whatever. Or just even sometimes just a shirt only and I just wear my underwear. But, yeah, like, I guess, yeah, like, do we have to wear pajamas? Like sometimes, I just rock a very long t-shirt or bathrobe or whatever. Certainly pajamas make it more comfortable, but, yeah, that's another thing. Like, pajamas, why do they exist? And the fact that, you can only wear your pajamas when you go to bed, but when you go outside, it seems inappropriate to wear your pajamas. But when you're, I guess, old, it's socially acceptable because, people look at you and say, oh, he's an old person. He doesn't give a crap anymore. She doesn't give a crap anymore. Or they don't give a crap anymore because, they're old. But yet again, why do we think that? Why is it acceptable that old people can wear pajamas when they go outside, but not young people or adults? I certainly want to reach the age where I can just go outside in like, my pajamas or whatever, nothing revealing or anything, just standard pajamas, not have anyone care because it's like, oh, he's, one step closer towards the grave sort of thing. That's very bleak. But yet again, I just want to end this video on that note. Yet again, this is nothing too serious. On the surface level, it just seems like a bunch of jargon, but I think this is, just the fact that, well, obviously things change over time, right? Do we have to call the bank every time we travel to a new state or travel overseas? Maybe not as much anymore. I don't know. But, if certainly everyone tried doing that, expect to be on the phone for like 2 hours waiting, So yeah, that's just things that pop into my mind. And I'd like to hear your stories, has an adult ever said something to you when you're young? Could be a teacher, parent, and you grow up and you're like, hey, that's not true anymore. Hey, is that actually true? Do I have to be at the airport always like 3 hours early? Why not like 2 sort of thing? I'm just interested to hear what you say. And yet again, though, I always recommend practice good hygiene, eat healthy foods, arrive at the airport early, to pretty much do as what you're told by like an adult or, someone who has previous experience and are trying to give you advice on how to survive life and all that. And I can appreciate that, but, certainly I've taken it too far in my own life. Whenever I'm at the airport like 4 hours, I'm like, I have to be there early. I have to live up to my dad's legacy. I have to be at the airport 4 hours early. Otherwise, my flight. I've clearly had that in my mind. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've wanted to say. And I guess I'll catch you all next time. Bye. See you. Take care. Catch you all tomorrow.